Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. One of the issues that comes out of COVID is how everyone dealt with it and what the impacts on them were. And I was watching a TV show the other day that was depicting what was going on in 2020, 2021, and it's almost today difficult to remember how we were all affected as life has returned to normal. Masking and worried and social distancing and not going to school and not going to work and all that kind of stuff. And I know lots of people are still somewhat living a hybrid lifestyle, but we're not living that life that we did. But the people that were impacted the most, I think, were kids. And, I've spoken to some children, and so have you probably, that, spent their whole university career not going to class, not having, the typical university experiences. And people in high school that never got to go to students' council meetings live, never got to play football, never got to go to school dances. So much of what, I remember as some of the most important parts of my education, both in high school or elementary school or university, were robbed from young people because of COVID. And so I wanted to check in with someone who's trying to solve this problem. Elizabeth Galvin is her name. She's a mother of two, and she is the executive director of something called Project Youth Energy. Her team is helping young people aged 15 to 25 whose education was destabilized due to school closures in the past 3 years. And I wanted to check in with her and find out what she's doing. And there was a really interesting article in the Toronto Sun just recently about the thousands of Ontario students that were impacted. Elizabeth, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Brian.
My pleasure. So tell me, if you could, a little bit about, what your organization is trying to do and maybe also how you got involved and why you got involved.
Well, we are working with young people aged 15 to 25, roughly, whose education was destabilized. So the kids who, for whatever reason, fell out of school or maybe are back in school but are still really struggling. And how we're doing that is we're connecting them with mentors, educators, trainers, and business people to help them, one, finish their education wherever they left off, whether it was high school, college, university, and two, help them level up their work skills so that they can look forward to a successful future.
And so what you're worried that during COVID, I was worried they didn't have some of the extracurricular experiences. You're worried that they didn't actually have some of the educational experiences that they needed because they were stuck at home.
Yes. The education system just collapsed. And as you said in your intro, these kids, all kids, lost out on their lives in school, which is their whole lives. So not just online learning, which was really difficult for a lot of people, a lot of kids, but also all of the social aspects of it. And as you said, all of the sports and teams and groups and things like that, and being with friends. So the isolation that so many of them felt really destabilized their education. Some kids just opted out with a simple click on their computer, and they've had a tough time getting back into the groove, getting back on track. And that's what we're helping them do.
I had someone describe it as, how would you feel if you were, told to go to your room and watch TV all day and it was really, really bad TV?
Yeah. Yeah. And easy to opt out.
And easy to opt out. This organization, do you have a website? Are you, if people are worried about some of their youth and want them to take advantage of your organization, how do they do that?
Our website is projectyouthenergy.com or .ca. And you can fill out a very quick form that will get to us. And one of our team members will call you back and we'll have a chat about where the student left off and what their needs are. Or they can call me and I will talk to them and see where to go from here. So some of the high school students or the students who left off in high school, we're helping them to navigate getting back into high school and finishing off those credits. So boards of education all have continuing education. And so we're helping them navigate through that system and finish off that high school diploma. For the college students that we're working with who left off in college, we're helping them rediscover college, look up different programs and different colleges. A group of us went to Sheridan College a few weeks ago and did a tour because I have some kids who are interested in the theater program that's there. So that was really exciting. And a group of us went to the college fair last week and looked at the different colleges and different programs that they have and what they need to do in order to get back into college. And then for the university students that were just destabilized, one in particular, I've connected him with a mentor who is helping him with his engineering studies, and they're working on a little project together and getting him excited again about learning and getting back to school. As you said, all of the extracurriculars that were stopped during COVID really affected these kids, and that's what I'm seeing. And the kids that, especially who were in grade 12 when all the shutdowns happened, they lost out on a prom, a high school graduation. They started post-secondary virtually. So they had this new learning level that they had to adapt to, and they had to do it virtually. So they didn't have direct access to profs and their peers to work with to do that learning. So it was really hard for them. It was really hard. And no
sorry, please go on.
And no socialization, no chance to meet other kids. So these kids were going to college and university campuses, the ones that were open, many of them weren't, and trying to meet new people and spread their wings and mature. That's a very important milestone to start again. And the connections weren't there.
You know, it's interesting. I was chairman of the Mississauga City Summit at one point in time, and we had a major study. And this would have been back, during before the Great Recession and then after the Great Recession during. And so it was a different time period. But we had psychologists that came and spoke to us about the impact of kids not having mentors and how critically important it is. And the explanation was that some of those mentor-mentee relationships with teachers that were the football coach or the cheerleading coach or the student council coach, and even more importantly, some adults that may have been mentors in first jobs, in summer jobs, in opportunities that people had for internships and things like that, ended up being critically important to people's development, trying to figure out what they wanted to do in life, helping them network to get those first jobs, and figure out where they were going in the future. And then I think the other issue is I interviewed a child psychologist who said that, can you imagine going into a dating world when you haven't had any experience with dating before, and group interaction and personal interaction? If you've been actually sitting and most of your interaction has been on phones and videos for the last couple of years, how do you actually start socializing and meeting people? And it's very challenging doing that. So I think that what you're doing is spectacular, and I really congratulate you. We're going to take a break for some messages and be back in just 2 minutes with Elizabeth. We're going to talk a little bit more about the challenge that some of our teenagers and young adults have faced and what her organization is doing to assist them. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. Our topic tonight is what to do about our kids after them living through, suffering from all the separation caused by COVID-19 and the closures of schools and universities and things like that. My guest is Elizabeth Galvin. She is the mother of two and an executive director of an organization called Project Youth Energy. Her team is helping young people aged 15 to 25 whose education was, as she calls it, destabilized due to school closures in the past 3 years. I think destabilized is a very generous description of what happened. They were messed up big time by what happened. And you're trying to help them finish their education and get the skills they need to get that first job. And you're doing that by connecting youth with mentors or coaches, educators, trainers, and business partners. So tell me, if you could, Elizabeth, where you're getting these coaches, educators, trainers, and business partners. How are you recruiting them?
We're recruiting them through our website and through the contacts and connections that we have. Our team has been in the working world for many years, and we have lots of connections and know lots of people. And when we bring in a youth to our program who needs a mentor or a guide or a coach that we don't know somebody, we reach out and we find somebody for them. And that's actually one of the nicest parts of this program, is watching the youth with mentors. You mentioned that before, Brian, and it's really something to see. I've sat in on a few meetings with mentors and youth, and the questions that they ask these mentors. And it's nice for the mentors as well and the coaches to be able to relay their experience and their know-how and their knowledge to these young kids. And it's such a good learning experience for them, things that they just don't know. The questions that they ask them have been so beneficial. I've had a few kids say to me, wow, I didn't know that. I never would have even thought of that. So it's really nice to see. It's really helping them to chart that course to get to their goal. And that's basically what the program does, is help them formulate that goal, help them get thinking again about what they want to do, what they want to be, and show them how to get there. When we collapsed the education system and the business community with all the business closures, two of the things that they couldn't get were decent summer jobs or job placements or job shadowing. If they wanted to work in a fast food place, that was no problem. But decent summer jobs in an office or in a facility where they would learn more complicated skills that would help them to understand where their strengths are and where their interests lie. So we're always looking for mentors. If there's anyone out there who wants to impart their wisdom and help a young person to level up their skills and help them along their path, we are looking for you. And we're always looking for business people who can provide opportunities for these kids to increase their work skills. We've got some really bright kids.
And I presume
who just need a little bit of guidance.
I presume this service is free?
Yes, it is.
And mentors don't get paid?
They don't.
So this is all a voluntary organization. That sounds fantastic. Tell me, if you could, some examples of some of your experiences, some of your big successes, if you could.
Well, without violating anyone's privacy, one student that we're working with who fell off track in university, we've put him in touch with an engineer who was helping him work on he was a computer science student, and he had an idea for a project. And of course, there were no projects, no group work that they were able to do for so long. So this engineer is helping him along with his project, and he's getting really excited about it. And he's ready to go back to school. He's ready to get back into university.
So these are some kids that actually dropped out because of their frustration with the disruption.
Yeah. The social isolation was really, really hard on all of us, but especially young people who weren't mature enough to be able to navigate through that. Another young man we're dealing with was ousted from college due to vaccine mandates, unfortunately. and is working in a restaurant right now. So now we are exploring different college programs. We've done an aptitude, he's done an aptitude test, and he's looking at where his strengths lie and changing course a little bit, and is now ready to, he thinks he's found a program that looks like he wants to pursue, and he's looking at going back again in January. So that's nice. After 2 years, to see these kids get back in school is great. But one of my one of the ones I'm most excited about are two young ladies that dropped out in high school and are now working in retail due to socioeconomic circumstances. And we've helped them both to get back into the high school curriculum with the continuing education system through the Board of Education that they, in the town that they live in. And they're very close to completing their high school diploma. And why this is so important to completing high school diplomas especially is because COVID cast a long shadow on in many ways. And if we have a huge tens of thousands of kids, of people who are uneducated or undereducated, that's going to mean huge implications for our workforce, our social programs, crime, healthcare, mental health care going forward. And it's going to be the collapse of the education system, and our business system was catastrophic, but it's going to continue to be catastrophic if we don't help these kids get back on track. And that's what we're trying to do. So it takes a village. So if there's anyone who is interested in being a mentor or helping in terms of business and companies that can help these kids, we would love to hear from them.
No, I think it's a fantastic project that you're involved in, but I understand that there's a very personal reason why you decided to launch this. I'm not sure if you're comfortable sharing that with us, but if you are, please tell us.
Well, my daughter, we lost my daughter in January 2022 to suicide. She was in second year university in Guelph. And in January 22, if you remember, Ontario had just been plunged into the third or fourth lockdown, whatever it was. So it was just an accumulation of starting university virtually and social isolation, not being able to have all the things that we talked about, Brian, all of those things that students should have, campus life and networking with students and class projects and access to professors. And in January 2022, as I say, the government, as you remember, plunged us into another lockdown. Despite all the warnings, there were many indications that this would not be beneficial, that this was not the way to go, but they did it anyway. And interestingly, tragically, Brian, another second year University of Guelph student also took her life the week before my daughter. And at the same time, in that same week, another 20-year-old took her own life. She was waiting to go back to school until things returned to normal. But she was isolated and alone, as we all were isolated. And so that's just 3 young people that I know of. So it's a cautionary tale. As I say, the studies were all there. McMaster did a study, and the showing that suicides among young people were up 300%. Cases of anorexia were up 200%. Opioid overdoses and misuse had increased 90%. And that was only in 2020. So by January 2022, this should have been over. Lockdowns and shutdowns shouldn't have happened again, but they did. And here we are. And we're seeing the effects of it, even with kids who are in school. We're hearing news reports about the disruptions that are happening in schools, and the social unrest that we're seeing. And I think a lot of that has to do with social isolation. People aren't meant to be isolated as long as we were. So in short, we can never let this happen again. We can't. The evidence is there, the results are there, and we can't let it happen again.
So you draw a direct connection between, and I'm very, very sorry for your loss, but between your daughter's suicide and COVID-19 and the lockdowns.
And the lockdowns. These were kids that were vaccinated. It wasn't about COVID, it was about the lockdowns and our government's response, our government's mandates to lock people down again and shut things down. And it can't happen again.
I'm very, very sorry for your loss, and I can feel the emotion for obvious reasons. But you're doing something wonderful for other people coming out of this tragedy, and so thank you for that. I think that it's impacted lots of people. I think that the people that you've identified that were in high school or university, I know numerous people that graduated university and couldn't get jobs because so many different employers were stopping their hiring and couldn't train people. And I remember meeting someone who was moving a job after a year in, I think it was the summer of 21, and she had said that she had worked on a job and never once had met someone real in life that she worked with, had spent the first full year of her employment. And she says, how can you create culture? How can you create organization? How can you create teamwork if you never meet someone in real life? Interacting with someone via a video screen once in a while is okay, but you got to have some interaction with people around the water cooler or around the coffee pot. Again, I'm very sorry for your loss. What's our learning? Learning number one is you don't want to have these lockdowns again. But I guess learning number two is, for all of us, is that we've got to encourage our kids to socialize, because people close off for lots of different reasons, not just lockdowns. They close off because they're on video games, because they're tied to their telephones, I guess lots of other reasons. And so I think the other learning is that social interaction is so critically important. Is that true?
Yeah, people are social, and human beings are social animals. They want to be with other people, no matter how that is. And if I could just say, Brian, the other thing that was lost, I'm not sure if I mentioned it, was a lack of guidance. So what I'm seeing with these young people is that they are having a hard time navigating through a system that is increasingly complicated, whether it's the high school system, the college, or the university system. Our lives have become very complicated, and they need some help, a little bit of help, just to show them where to find resources, where to look for information. And now that things are open again, they can take advantage of that and talk to people instead of looking something up on a website. It's so important. The information that's exchanged between people when they talk to each other is critical for, as you said before, networking, learning some skills, getting information from other people that can help you and give you ideas. So that's something that young people lost out on as well, which was a real shame. And we need to help them. And if I could also say, Brian, the brainchild of this, of Project Youth Energy, is Irvin Studin. He's the president of the Institute of 21st Century Questions. And he and some colleagues from around the world have been studying this since COVID began, and doing studies, and they're talking about how other countries are dealing with this problem of young people not being educated. And it was his idea to start Project Youth Energy. And that's how I heard him speak at an event. And I thought, oh, this is the problem. A lot of us couldn't put our finger on it. What is the problem? And he has, and he's the brainchild behind Project Youth Energy. I'm just, one of the people on the ground who are working with the kids.
Elizabeth Galvin, thank you so much for joining us and telling us about Project Youth Energy. Remind us of the website that people go to if they want to either access the services and or act as a mentor.
Our website is projectyouthenergy.com or .ca, or you can call us directly at 905-580-7821.
Elizabeth Galvin, again, thank you so much for sharing your personal story with us, and my condolences. But thank you very much for launching this program, because I think you're going to have a very positive impact on lots of other people. We're going to take a break and come back with some of my own concluding comments in just 2 minutes. Stay with us, everybody.